It's Rhema, Brekky on your Friday morning, 10 minutes after 8. They're the guys from Ren Collective and Burn. Good to have your company. Mick Wright with you through until 9. Hey, if you're out and about on the roads at the moment, don't forget those school zones are in force out there until 9:30. 40 k's an hour is the speed limit. So please make sure you slow it down and do the right thing out there. And kicking us off for 2026, we are looking at it again. And it's just been so great having her on the program all of this time as well. She is back with us live this morning. Kelli Kieselbach, a nutritionist and naturopath. We are naturally speaking with Kelli. How you doing, Kelli?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year as well. It's really weird, isn't it? Because even though it's February, I've got
I know. It feels, yeah.
different people sort of rolling back on who are regulars on the show, and you're kind of wishing them Happy New Year. Because we haven't seen you for a couple of months. So, and you had a good one?
Yeah, it was really nice. Had a little break, so that was good. And then well and truly back into it now. All the routines are back in play, and school's back, work's back, everything.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, look, time waits for no man or woman. Is the old saying.
Correct.
So it just keeps rolling on. But look, we're so stoked that you're back for 2026. I know lots of people love this segment on the second Friday of every month. So and obviously as well, one of the things that we love to do is to put it up there on our Rhema CC website, onto the podcasting page there, so that people can go along there, check that out at any time that they want to after it gets uploaded, which is usually either that day or the day after that we have it. So it's a super great episode segment, and again, we've just had so many great topics that we've been covering, and it is a National Lunchbox Week this week right across Australia. So we thought, well, look, why not just roll on with that one? We've been chatting about it on the show a little bit through it. So let's kick it off this morning, Kelli. I guess it's probably a bit of a Captain Obvious, but why is it so important to have a healthy lunchbox for the kids?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that it is always that obvious to everyone, but there is a lot of research around the impact on food or lack of food, and the types of food that kids eat or may not eat, and how that impacts their learning, their concentration, their fatigue, even their behavior. So just on a day-to-day level, having a healthy lunchbox, having a good amount of food for your child to eat is really important. But then we're also long-term considering the nutritional impact and nutritional deficiencies that might come about if they are not, eating a really good, nourishing, balanced diet, particularly as they move into adolescence, which is actually the most demanding time nutritionally. So in terms of stages of life, your body requires the most amount of nutrients and nutrition during adolescence because that growth is so rapid and the development is so rapid. So even more so than during pregnancy or breastfeeding, that's a really key time when we need nutrition to be really doing what it needs to do and making sure that kids and teens are getting what they need.
Yeah, and look, some of the stats around it too is I think it's about a third or thereabouts of a child's kind of their daily food intake is in the lunchbox, which is what you'd probably think of anyway if they have 3 meals a day. And even in that, there is a lot of figures coming out as well that a lot of kids are even missing out sort of a decent breakfast at home sometimes. So, the lunchbox and, I guess recess and lunch, again, combined are a very, very important time for the kids to get that nutritional, that nutritional sustenance and all the stuff that goes with that. So what are some of the items that you would probably look at and go, yeah, that's a nice, healthy addition to a daily lunchbox?
Yeah, well, we want to make sure that we're covering a lot of the different food groups. So we want to make sure that there's some good quality protein in there because that's really going to set them up and help their learning and to stabilize their behavior throughout the day. We want to make sure there's some fresh produce, fresh fruits and vegetables that's going to give them lots of phytonutrients. So, chemicals that are beneficial for us that come from plants as well as fiber, and also some whole grains to give us that fiber and healthy fats as well. So if we can get a little bit of from each of those groups, then that's going to give a really balanced foundation. So when we're looking at good protein sources for a lunchbox, it can be things like boiled eggs, chicken, a bit of cheese or yogurt, leftover meat, a little bit of tuna, those sorts of things. If they're vegetarian, it could be things like tofu or beans. Anything like that can go into a lunchbox. And then your fresh fruits and vegetables, lots of different colors is good, as much as you can get them to eat. And your whole grain, so maybe some whole grain crackers, whole grain breads or wraps. If your kid is not into the sandwiches, you can do the leftovers you can get lots of really affordable insulated containers and encourage your kids to have leftovers as well. That's not a bad idea. It doesn't always have to be the sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. I still remember, I was just thinking there as you were talking about the good old lunch boxes from my primary school days, and how the school bag would end up often looking by the time I got home that afternoon, with a few extra smells and different things like that from leftovers or whatever, or it just was mashed up in some way. It was just, it was gnarly, that is for sure. Now, look,
or at the end of the term, you've always got to check their bags at the end of the term. Otherwise you find a nasty surprise when they go back to school. Yeah,
well, I mean, the last thing you want, I guess, is the kids growing their own penicillin, in their school bags or their lunch boxes. So always a good idea to check that out on parents. Now, what would be some of the things that you would avoid? Because, I mean, sometimes, you want to throw something in there that's quick for them, but quick's not always the healthiest, is it?
No, it's not always the healthiest, but there are quick things that are healthy. So I think sometimes for us, we've really moved into this modern food time where it's all about convenience. So since probably the 80s or so, this resurgence of convenience foods and packaged foods that has really become now the norm. So there are not many kids today that would go to school without some sort of packet in their lunchbox. And I'm a mum of 2 boys. I totally get the need for convenience, and I'm not judging anyone for putting packets in their lunchboxes, because sometimes that's just the thing. But we do want to avoid overly processed things as much as possible. So we want to have the majority of the lunchbox being whole foods, and even if they're treats, making the more home cooked the better. And then if you need to throw a packet of something in to top things up, you can do that. It's just about maintaining the balance, but avoiding as much as you can in the way of colors and sugars and additives, because there is research around this impacting kids' behavior, and the poor teachers that have to deal with that as well. So it's about keeping that balance, and as much as we can, the less packaged stuff that's in there, the better. And it's better for the environment as well. But, that's another topic.
Absolutely. Look, I've often found that, you can, different places you go to get your food, they will often sell like the very small packets of mixed nuts and, or cashews or whatever, and even trail mixes and different things like that. They're super healthy, aren't they? And they're so convenient.
Well, they really are. But the problem that we have is that most schools nowadays will have a no nut or nut-free policy. And that can make it really challenging, especially if you're a vegetarian or vegan and you're relying on those plant proteins. So that can be a real challenge. But things like roasted chickpeas make a nice little snack. You can use those beans and legumes more, maybe make up some little like lentil patties and those sorts of things. But as far as the packaged things goes, then the nuts can be a challenge, even though that would be a great option.
It's pretty unfortunate about the amount of allergies that are out there, unfortunately, around nuts, because they're such a great food source, aren't they? They pack so much goodness in them. I mean, I had them at home and I used to try and have one a day, and they're just amazing. And again, great to travel around with. Now, here's one that probably a lot of parents and carers are listening this morning going, okay, my kids, you've almost got to force their mouth open with a crowbar to even put food in there. So we're talking about the picky eaters. So what would be some of the advice that you would give for parents and carers, particularly if they're packing a lunchbox?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I guess the priority is that we want them to eat something because it's really going to impact them, across the day. So when you're packing your lunchbox, I would say make sure there's something in there that you know that they're likely to eat, so that you at least know that they've got some sort of something coming in during the day. But I would also add in a variety of different things that they may or may not eat. Continue to offer it. We know that when we continue to offer it and don't just assume that they're not going to eat something, that they're more likely at some point to start eating that food. And change it up, a little bit, particularly with fruits and vegetables, so that it becomes the norm. They know that each day, they expect there's something in there that they may not like but are expected to eat. I wouldn't force kids to eat things, and we don't want necessarily to punish them, but it's good for them to see what balance looks like, even if they're not going to eat it, which I know is frustrating because you also don't want to waste food, but it's actually important for their relationship and their attitude around food as they grow up. The other thing I would say is that if it's really impacting their development or their schooling, that it is important to have a chat with the pediatrician. And I would also suggest seeing a pediatric nutritionist or naturopath who can support you around these issues, and just assess that there's nothing else going on, because there are nutrient deficiencies and certain conditions that can impact how fussy or how picky a child is as far as their food goes. And make sure you're eating the healthy foods in front of them as well. Yeah, so kids who are picky and they have picky parents, and the parents are refusing the broccoli but expecting their kids to eat it, that ain't going to work. So they've got to see you modeling that as well.
Yeah, sort of stay away from the do as I say and kind of not as I do kind of thing. Yeah, it's probably a really good idea. And look, just to wrap us up this morning, Kelly, obviously I don't think anybody is in denial of the economic situations a lot of families find themselves in. And so, you still want to be able to try and eat healthy on a sometimes a very limited budget. So what are some of the ways that you could go about making sure that you're keeping the kids' lunchbox nice and healthy, but maybe just on a bit of a budget?
Yeah, so the first one is trying to eat in season as much as possible and to eat locally. So, any fruit and veg that's in season, that's locally grown, generally is cheaper. Mm-hmm. I would also say avoiding the packets. While they're convenient, they do tend to add up, and they are generally more expensive than sort of whipping up a batch of muffins or something, at home. So if you are, comfortable in the kitchen and, are able to do that, then I would encourage people to do that and maybe get the kids involved so they learn these skills as well. The other thing is using leftovers. So try not to waste things, but, if you're cooking dinner, think about whether it's something that you can cook extra of, or how you can use the leftovers the next day for lunch boxes. And that's for both kids and adults, really, work lunches as well. That can be really, really helpful. And some other simple things would be things like, trying to buy in bulk, like things like your non-perishables when they are on special, trying to, stock up a little bit, eating, your grainy crackers and foods that can be quite filling, getting really into the legumes. They're actually very cheap.
Yeah.
And very good for you. So, learning to use those in your lunches as well can be a really good thing if you're on a budget.
We are speaking with naturopath and nutritionist Kelli Kieselbach. Naturally Speaking is the name of the segment. Every second Friday you will find us here chatting around just after 8 a.m. Great to have you back on for 2026, Kelli. So looking forward to getting into a whole lot of extra stuff with you throughout the year.
Yeah, excellent. It's great to be back.
Yep, lovely to see your face this morning. We'll be chatting with Kelli again next month, so make sure you stay tuned in. That is the second Friday of every single month here on Rhema Brekky with Kelli Kieselbach. Stay with us. We've got some more music right after this. This is Rhema Brekky on your Friday morning.